one day, I'll never forget it. I get this phone call. Jennifer, it's Sean blah, blah, blah from William Morris. Who? Your agent? And I'm like, oh, you've never called me before, so I didn't recognize your voice. And he was like, how would you like to go to Iraq and Afghanistan and entertain the troops? It's really dangerous and the pay is terrible. And I'm like, oh, a war zone, no money. Yeah, I'll take it.
Welcome to the podcast where motherhood meets reinvention. I'm your host, Sharon Macey, and this is Mom to More. I'll be speaking with remarkable moms who have embraced the art of transformation, crafting their more by leveraging the skills they hone as stay-at-home moms. They'll share their experiences, struggles, and successes as they return to a former career, pursued a passion or hobby, or charted an entirely new path, giving you the clarity, motivation, and inspiration to help you answer the question, what do you want to do when your kids grow up? Welcome back to Mom to More. I am so glad you're here today because my next guest is another first for me. Jennifer Rawlings is an award-winning writer, performer, filmmaker, and mother of 5, and I bow down to you with 5. You may have seen Jennifer on Comedy Central, CMT, PBS, VH1, A&E, CNN, HLN. In the film, I Am Battle Comic, which follows a group of comedians on a mission to entertain U.S. troops, or streaming on one of her 3 TEDx Talks. Jennifer is a beloved keynote speaker at events across the globe and is known for her wit and inspiration. Using her humor to tackle serious subject matters, she was named one of the 21 changemakers of the 21st century by Women's E! News. For decades, Jennifer has entertained the troops, performing in over 350, military shows in dozens of countries in both wartime and peace. Inspired by her time in various war zones, she added documentary filmmaker to her resume with Forgotten Voices, Women in Bosnia, which received critical acclaim. Numerous universities, including Harvard and UCLA, included this documentary as part of their curriculum. She has written for TV, film, and written after-dinner speeches for world leaders and a Supreme Court justice. And absolutely no surprise here, folks, she was also a stay-at-home mom. So, Jennifer, I am breathless from reading this.
Oh, well, thanks for not including the typos in there.
Okay, didn't do that. I'm so glad you're here, and there's so many things that I want to unpack, so let's just jump in.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I start all my interviews with what I call my essential mom question, and that is, we know you've got 5 kids, and where did you raise them?
If you count my husband.
Well, so, yes, true. And yes, and I think you also said he was a new and improved husband.
He's my new and improved husband of 17 years.
Okay, we like that model. Okay.
So I have 4 biological kids and a stepson. I raised my kids in Los Angeles, and I have 1 girl and 3 boys. And then my stepson, putting them all in private schools was not in the cards for me. So they went to 5 different public schools and different magnet programs. And I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, make their sandwiches. I didn't have time to get dressed, so I drove them in my robe every day and slippers, and just did my best.
Yeah. So why was it important to spend this time with your kids? Because it is so fleeting.
It's so fleeting. And I mean, I did a little bit of both. I was home with my kids. I remember one time in particular, I got up quite early. I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning because I had to catch an 8 a.m. flight. I made my kids breakfast. I made their lunch. I flew to Dallas to tape a television show and was back in time to have dinner with them.
Well done.
And it was really important to me to be with them because I was like, there's just such a small window of time to build those memories. But it wasn't always easy. I mean, I remember before the cell phones that we now have, I remember trying to make phone calls and having to lock myself in my bedroom in my closet because they'd be fighting like I was trying to have a conversation.
I just want some peace and quiet. And isn't it ironic? And I think every mom says this, the moment you get on the phone is when they start bothering you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So talk to me about, when did you realize you were funny? And how did this unfold?
So I was actually in college studying biology, and I thought, I'm going to be a pediatrician. And then I remember seeing stand up for the first time, and I was like, oh, I could do that. It stuck with me, and I like got in my little car and drove to Los Angeles, and I, went to the Improv, and I was like, "Hi, bud, I'm Jennifer. I'm a comic." And he's like, "Okay." He was like, "You're supposed to come back on such and such a night, put your name in a hat." But I really lucked out because he said, I go, "Well, why can't I just go on stage now?" And he paused for a minute and goes, "Okay." And something in me, when I walked off stage, I knew better than to say, "Well, how did I do?" Instead, I said, "You don't have to give me the best spots. I just want to work."
Mhm.
And that's how I started my stand-up journey.
And then where were you in your mom journey with your stand-up journey?
I was a stand-up first, and
Okay.
then I took about a decade off to have my kids because my 4 biological kids are 7 years apart. It was crazy town. I was in intensive care for 3 months when my last one was born, and so it was just really, really difficult. And then I kind of, slowly restarted again with my stand up, but I was always kind of back and forth and pushing and pulling because you want to be a good mom, but then at the same time you're like, hold on. But I tell my kids that they can do anything they want. I need to believe that for myself. So I'd kind of pump myself back up again to go do some work, and then I'd go, "Oh, I feel so guilty. I need to be back home again."
Yeah, and that's hard because you want to be there for the kids, and yet we're still humans, and we have
Right. We
wishes
have desires,
and
we have dreams.
we have exactly, and there's no reason why we can't do them. I know that when my kids were younger, my oldest is 30, it was either I was working in an office or I was working in my home, and there
Right.
was really no gig economy, and I didn't have that opportunity.
Yes, exactly. It was very hard. And then when I would be gone on the road, you'd feel so bad. And then at some point, I realized, okay, well, if I want to be a good mom to my kids, I can't totally ignore what's in my heart, as far as an expression of what I'm supposed to be doing in this world.
I get that. I get that. And you were there for them. You made it work, right? But at first, wasn't your comedy more of like your hobby? And then it morphed into something more serious.
There was a couple phases of that. So before I had kids, it was my occupation.
Right.
And then I had kids, and then I was, and then it's just the pain of going back out and and I think it's the same whether, you're a stand-up comic or, in the business world, to then come back from motherhood and go, "Oh, but I was somebody back here. I do know how to do this." And you have to reintroduce yourself. And I think that every woman has that struggle regardless of what her job is.
Reproving yourself.
Reproving, reestablishing, and I'm of the age where it wasn't cool to be a mom, by the way, at all, especially in Los Angeles. They'd be going, "What are you doing here, lady?"
Explain that a little more, that it wasn't cool to be a mom.
Well, okay, so in the stand-up world, when I started off, first of all, the women comics who were invited to be a part of it often had kind of a harsher kind of side. You were supposed to kind of be like Roseanne or something.
Okay. So in the stand-up world, it wasn't cool to be a
In
mom.
the stand-up world, it
That's
wasn't cool.
okay.
It's still it was a man's business for sure. And I'm really happy that it's totally shifted for some women. And that's great. I mean, I was 24 years old when I had my daughter, so
Okay. You were young. How has being a mom influenced your career, and when did you start going to war zones? I mean, I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself here, but how did that all play out?
a lot of times in the stand-up world, you go to comedy clubs, which I did do in town in Los Angeles, but oftentimes you would then go to the Chuckle Hut in Indianapolis for a week. And I was like, well, I really can't do that. So it started off whereas I would go and open for country acts. And because then I only had to be gone like one day, and I could go do a big show with like a big country artist, tell my little jokes, come back, and then, drive carpool, go to the grocery store while my kids are kicking and screaming, and kind of have like a hybrid existence. And then one day, I'll never forget it. I get this phone call, and the phone call was like, "Jennifer, it's Sean blah, blah, blah from William Morris." "Who?" John blah, blah, blah from William Morris, your agent? And I'm like, oh, you've never called me before, so I didn't recognize your voice. And he was like, how would you like to go to Iraq and Afghanistan and entertain the troops? It's really dangerous and the pay is terrible. And I'm like, oh, a war zone, no money. Yeah, I'll take it. So when I first started going to war zones, it really shifted from when I started to the 20 years that I spent doing it. Because at first it was about a gig.
Right.
It was about, even though I didn't go there for the finances part of it. You got like a tiny, tiny paycheck. But when you really see what's going on in the world, it totally shifted the way I saw the world. And then it kind of became about, okay, well, these are like 18-year-old kids, many of them that I'm entertaining. And if they can go and be in Iraq or Afghanistan or Bosnia or Kosovo for a year, I can go there for 2 weeks or a month or whatever that looked like.
Yeah.
And so it started as one thing and totally shifted to something else. And I think that it was really motherhood that kept me doing it, because these are somebody's children.
Probably
They
the
are
age of your
scared.
children. Yeah.
They are away from home. And, if me, a mother can, make them laugh by telling a dirty joke or whatever, then I wanted to be that person. But the interesting thing is when you do go to war zones, the show is one thing, but the real joy, both, at least for me and I think for them, is the time before and afterwards, when you get to give a hug and
Give a good mom hug to those boys.
give a good mom hug and listen to their stories. And so that was the most rewarding part for me.
How fabulous is that? Did you have a favorite joke that you like to tell?
One of the things I always open with is I've been trying to lose 10 pounds all day. It's mostly postpartum weight. I just had a baby like 25 years ago. That's one of the ones I always tell.
We can all raise our hands
But
together.
I mean, in war zones, I definitely am dirtier because, they're 18-year-old kids. You got to give them what they want.
Exactly. What I hear and what I can sense as a mom is that you were doing this. There were some parts of it that were like amazing. But there's insecurities and struggles that come with everything. So I want to talk that, because we all have them. And when we had first spoken, you said you had failed a million ways. And, as a mom, I totally feel the same. And I think a lot of, moms listening can go, oh yeah, me too. Your daughter, I think, said something that turned things around. What was that?
And that is true. Like every single thing I did, I thought I am not as good as all these other moms. I mean, they first of all, they drive their kids in clothing. I'm in a robe. They have makeup and shoes on, and I just never felt mom enough, and always felt like everybody else is better than I am, and all these kind of things. And I think what you might be alluding to is when my daughter was a teenager, I was reading an article in a newspaper, and it was about this woman in Darfur, and her child was starving to death. And as I'm reading this article, I'm like crying. And my daughter looks at me and she goes, what are you crying about, Mom? And I'm like, well, it's just so sad what goes on in the world and how people suffer. And she goes, well, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, okay, do about it. I mean, what I wanted to do, was like smack her face, but I lived in California. So actually, I'm kidding. But
when she said, what are you going to do about it? Where did that take you? When
she said, what are you going to do about it? I thought, well, first of all, what could I possibly do about anything? I'm just a mom. How could I ever create change? How could I do anything to help anybody? Because I can't even manage, getting my car washed, But that question, it really ate away at me all night and all day. And I was like, what am I going to do about it? And so the next morning I woke up and I was like, okay, at this point, I'd been going to war zones for decades. And the interesting thing is, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Kosovo, the names change, but the stories kind of always remain the same. The war continues to destroy lives. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go to Bosnia and make a film about women in the aftermath of war. That's what I'm going to do about it. And so without my daughter being such a smart aleck, I don't think I would have ever gotten there. I think it's really great when our kids challenge us, because sometimes they
Absolutely.
see us totally different than we see ourselves,
Mhm.
you know?
Okay, so you decided to become a documentary filmmaker, and you did.
Yes. Okay. So there was only a few obstacles with that. One, I'd never shot a home movie before. Two, I have zero technical skills. Zero.
Well,
Like, I'm pretty
obstacles
sure
in
I'm
filmmaking.
flashing right here behind me.
Right.
Number three, and the biggest one of all, no money. Like, I'm not a wealthy woman. I didn't know how I was going to finance this. And, so I called a couple friends and I was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'd like to make a film about women in the aftermath of war. Shockingly, they both said yes. And that's how that journey started. I bought a camera and a plane ticket, and without any crew or any knowledge of what I was doing,
Mhm.
I just went. If you're a mom out there and you want to do something and you're like, well, I don't know how to do it, I can't afford to do it, and I have no business doing it, you definitely do.
Right. Right.
You just do it.
And you know what? You just brought up something that to me is like one of the pillars of Mom to More and this whole reinvention process is, yes, we have fear. Yes, we have insecurities. That's probably when you need to take that step and go, I'm walking into wherever that takes me. We have the ability, we have that internal strength because, God, we've been a mom.
We've been a mom. I mean,
Well, on the planet.
we can handle it.
We can handle anything. And I think oftentimes moms don't realize how very strong we are
Right.
until you have that opportunity to really challenge yourself. So I love what you said is like you gave yourself permission to go and
Right.
do something that you knew was going to be very difficult, but boy, it turned out to be incredibly rewarding.
I would say that going to war zones was, I mean, aside from my kids, my husband, my family, going to war zones was the most significant thing that I've ever done in my life. And also because you really see that, I mean, this is going to get into a whole other thread here, but you really see firsthand that poverty is the weapon of mass destruction in the world. And you really see that, like, okay, I'm a mom, I want my kids to grow up in a different world, I need to just go and be love and share stories. So quite a shift from like going to just go tell jokes. I feel like that sometimes the dangerous things that pay no money might be the most rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've made a difference in the world.
I don't know. I try.
Yeah. But shining a light on these women's lives is
Well, thank
so
you.
important. And now a quick word from my sponsor, Ally Shoes. I got to tell you, these are some of the most comfortable shoes I have ever worn. They're designed by women for women, like finally, right? And engineered with perfectly placed padding. So I can literally wear these all day. And I cannot say that for other brands I've worn. And I'm not the only one giving positive reviews. InStyle, Business Insider, and CNN are all saying the same thing. Oh, and they have a really cool origin story as well. So flats, heels, boots, you name it, they have it. Ally is letting me share the love with all of you. Head on over to Ally, that's ALLY.NYC, where new customers and listeners of the pod will get $40 off your first pair of heels. All their heels, like Classic, Kitten, Bold Block, Sexy Slingbacks, with special code MOMTOMORE40, and 10% off your first pair of boots and flats, so 10% off of each, with special code MOMTOMORE10. Ally is reimagining how comfort and function support women every day, and I love that. Thanks to Ally for sponsoring this episode. So let's talk a little then about mom skills. Give me what you think your best mom skills are and how they've transitioned you into the filmmaking, took you back to the comedy.
Okay, so I love that you asked that question, because I just now, when you were asking it, I was reminded. So every single night at dinner when my kids were growing up, we would go around the table and we would say, what were your highs and lows today? Now, you were not able to copy somebody else's. It had to be about you. And you were also not allowed to have a no high day. You could have a no low day, but you couldn't have a no high day. And, those would go around, like, maybe Courtney like got an A on her test would be her high, and maybe she like had a zit and that would be her low, or, whatever those things were. And it helped me a lot when I was making my film, because when I went to Sarajevo to start this film, I didn't know a single soul. And it's not like you can run around with a camera rolling going, oh, please tell me your sad and tragic stories about what happened and what it's like to live through a war. No, you have to find common ground with people. You have to get them to open up. So I would always say, tell me about your happiest moment.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that's kind of just another version of going around the table saying, tell me your highs and lows.
Yeah. I love how you're able to take that one part of your life and transition it and use it in a very different way. Totally different way. And speaking of common ground, I listened to one of your TED Talks and you emphasize finding common ground and actually listening to one another. Why does that resonate with you so strongly?
Oh, well, okay. So first of all, I think that one of the things in the world, the world obviously totally chaotic at all times. And the problem is I don't know if you've, no, I do know you're a mother. You've definitely had drag out matches of wills with your kids.
100%.
And as they're like laying on the floor, crying, banging their head, pounding their fist and stomping off, and you're like, I said so, da 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 da. Nothing is going to happen. Like, it's just going to like be a terrible day, and they're gonna slam doors and you're gonna like feel like a failure. And much like family, the many of our feuds in the world can be negated if we would just take 1 minute and go, okay, I hear what you're saying. That's not where I'm at, and and I'd probably just say, I totally disagree with you, but I hear you.
Right. And having that conversation, right? Hearing and listening.
And hear what they're saying, because that is, and that skill, we moms have it with our kids, but when we go out in the world, we kind of like lose it. And we sometimes, I think we like, okay, we're the boss, we're the A, B, C, D. But honestly, we wouldn't be such a dysfunctional planet right now if we listened to one another.
Gotcha. And I think also what you just said about going out in the world, one of my guests actually said that she leads her company like she leads her family. She likes to lead like a mom. And I thought that was so lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? Isn't that lovely?
Lead like a mom. I love that.
Because we have that innate skill. We know how to do that. We know how to be firm and yet be loving and be wise and be caring.
And not go to sleep until we hear that door open and shut 5 times when they're teenagers. Like, we cannot sleep until we know everybody is safe.
That is true.
And how great would it be if we like approach the world that way? Is everybody safe?
Yeah. Yeah. It puts it in a whole different mindset. So a lot of moms in my audience are figuring out what their next chapter is going to be. What advice would you give a mom who wants to try something new and bold, like when you did the film later in life?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So I love that question. I think one of the things is, and men do it so well, and we as women need to be a lot better at it. If you go through the planet and say, who wants to be in charge of everything? A man, they'll have both hands up.
Yeah.
And women, oftentimes, we forget to raise our hand and say, pick me. And so if you have a dream and something that you want to do, raise your hand and say, pick me. Or raise both your hands, put your boots on, and start walking towards what you want. Like, you decide your future, not somebody else. It's not arbitrary. And I think that that's and back again to how we tell our kids, like from the time our kids are little itty bitty bitty, we say, you can do anything you want. And like I said before, we forget that for ourselves.
Right.
And moms, you can do anything you want in life. It's not just for your toddler
Yes.
or your
I
high
love
school
that.
student.
Thank you. That was so well said and so
Right.
beautiful. So thank you for that. So can you share a lesson from being a mom that unexpectedly maybe helped you in the chapter that you're in now?
I think one of the things that has really helped me in the chapter that I'm in now, because like now I think I'm on chapter 75, because it's just a constant
Many reinventions over the decades.
journey and a constant walking towards the person that I want to be. I think one of the things that really has helped me with that is just remembering to like encourage myself like I used to encourage my kids. Because when my kids were learning how to ride a bicycle and they fell down, I didn't say, well, that's it. You fell down. You're never going to be able to ride that bike. No, I'd put them back on and I'd say, you can do it. Get up, try again, try again, try again.
Right.
And so while I hate my millions of failures that I've personally had, and I definitely am somebody who can like have a pity party and cry about it, I do try and dust myself off and remember that just because I'm an adult, I'm not going to quit falling off the bicycle. I have to get up and try again. And I think that is one of the things that's really helped me the most. It's just
Right.
remembering that being adult doesn't mean not falling.
Exactly. And we also learn so much more from the tiny failures that we have.
Right.
Instead of the tiny successes or affirmation. But when you learn from failure.
You don't learn anything from success.
I know. Except for like, woohoo, I did it, But yes, you learn from those failures.
I mean, I've never like whether I be flush or not. I never learn anything when I'm flush. You learn things when like times are hard and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Going to push through. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's such a great answer. Thanks for that, Jennifer. So I have a question that I ask all of my amazing moms. Since this is the Mom to More podcast, Jennifer Rawlings, what is your more?
Okay. My more has got to be, regardless of age, because I'm 58. I still think I'm 23. My more is always changing, always growing, always becoming. And I think that definitely is what a mom does. And that's what we encourage our kids to do. Just always continuing to create the world we want to live in.
Exactly. And when a mom does that, keeps pushing, keeps trying to make the world a better place to live in, she creates new chapters for her. And that's brilliant. Thank you for that. So tell me where people can find you online. And folks, everything will be in the show notes.
Okay. So you can find me at jenniferrawlings.com. You can find me at Jennifer Rawlings on Substack, Jennifer Rawlings on Instagram. Oh, and I have a brand new chapter that I'm doing. It is called Laughter is Beautiful. That is also the title of my Substack, but it's a business and it's about going to companies and organizations to show people how you can build bridges by using humor in a world divided. So you can also go to laughterisbeautiful.com and click on it. And if your organization, if everybody's fighting and you need a mom timeout, so that I will come in and do some workshops and show you how you can use humor to change your organization.
I love that. How refreshing is that? Fabulous. Thank you for that. Jennifer, so much fun. You are such a delight. You've
Thank
been
you.
smiling this whole time that we've been chatting. So thank you for your time and your mom wisdom and how you think about moving forward in life. It's brilliant. It's spot on. And I know that moms are going to get so much out of this.
Mamas, you can do it. You can do
it, girls.
You're mine too.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much. Before I sign off, a quick favor. Following the Mom to More pod means you'll never miss an episode, and it really helps the show to grow. And if you'd be willing to leave a 5-star rating and review and share an episode with another mom, I'd be super grateful and appreciate your support.